Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sharing Visions, the 2020 New England Resource Sharing Conference. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Zach Berger. I am an adult services librarian at Cranston Public Library in Cranston, Rhode Island, member services librarian for the Rhode Island Library Information Network for Kids, and the chair of the Library of Rhode Island Resource Sharing Working Group. I will be your host today. I would like to start by letting you all know that this conference is being recorded, so your continued participation in this event denotes your consent to being recorded. This also means that session recordings will be made available at a later date. It's been almost 2 years since the germ of this conference idea was first discussed among members of the Resource Sharing Working Group. We had our first conversations in February of 2019 to talk about ways we could facilitate this event. And in March of that year, we formed our planning committee from members of the working group and the state library agencies of Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. We are very grateful to the state library agencies for their ongoing support of this program. We're also thankful that portions of the conference have been funded in part by the Institute of Museum and Library Services under the provisions of the Library Services and Technology Act administered by the Connecticut State Library. And of course, we couldn't hold this event without the Zoom hosting capability so crucially made available to us by the Warwick Public Library and overseen by their very talented technology coordinator, Evan Barda. As I'm sure you're all aware, planning any event of this size and scope is a process that requires many minds and many meetings. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the members of the Conference Planning Committee for joining me in this long but very rewarding process. Chai-Chin Chen, Resource Sharing Coordinator, Rhode Island Office of Library and Information Services. Scott Kehoe, MassCat and IT Manager, Massachusetts Library System. Paul Kissman, Library Information Systems Specialist, Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. Dawn Laval, Director, Division of Library Development, Connecticut State Library. And Jana Stevenson, Library Director, Warwick Public Library. The planning committee decided immediately that we wanted to take a multifaceted approach to this event with the goals of elevating resource sharing beyond interlibrary loan, beyond moving library materials from place to place, gaining exposure to and insight about the future of resource sharing, especially regarding non-traditional materials and services, taking a geographic approach to discoverability, what's out there and how can patrons access it, allowing neighboring and other regionally connected states to share expertise, goals, and challenges, and essentially starting conversations about developing barrier-free resource sharing practices which can encompass innovative solutions through the use of technology, perhaps some risk-taking and careful planning. We think we've made steps in the right direction with the lineup of talented, forward-thinking speakers and panelists we have on tap for today, all of whom we thank for their participation. Of course, much of the planning took place before we all found ourselves in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of a growing and vital movement for social and racial justice, in the midst of a tension-filled election year. Now more than ever, we need resource sharing to live up to the truly collaborative, egalitarian, potentially paradigm-shifting reality of its promise. And that is a very tall order in such challenging times. That's why we are here today, to share our visions for how we can make this happen. We are very lucky to have almost 300 attendees registered for today from 27 states joining us throughout the day, with all library types represented. We hope that you will come away from today's event with some fresh perspectives and new ideas for how you handle resource sharing in your institutions. I do want to let our audience know a few housekeeping items and reminders before we proceed. As I mentioned, participation in this event denotes your consent to being recorded. There is one access link to the conference for the entire day, so if you need to leave and come back, you may rejoin through the same link in your invitation email. If you experience difficulties re-entering the conference, you can reach us via email. Look for the email address on the questions tab on the conference website. We'll put the email address and website address into chat. You're welcome to say hello in chat, to share reactions and resources and keep the conversation going. But please put all questions for presenters in the Zoom Q&A feature so we can track them easily. This is the only place we will look for presenter questions. As you interact with each other today, please remember that this is a safe space for everyone. Please use the chat and Q&A features respectfully. Feel free to share about the conference on social media using the hashtag SharingVisions2020. Presenter resources and session recordings will be made available as soon as possible on the conference website. And a conference evaluation will be emailed to attendees the day after the event. We encourage everyone to fill it out, and we look forward to your feedback. In a few minutes, I will introduce our renowned keynote speaker, Trevor A. Dawes, who will get us thinking about many of the issues we face today and how we can move resource sharing forward in meaningful ways. Before I do so, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome the Chief of Library Services for the state of Rhode Island, the one and only Karen Meller, who has some opening remarks to share. And following Karen, we will also hear from James Lonergan, Director of the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. Karen, the microphone is all yours.
Thank you very much, Zach. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the Sharing Visions 2020 New England Resource Sharing Conference. I'm Karen Meller. I am the Chief of Library Services for the state of Rhode Island and Director of the Office of Library and Information Service. We are Rhode Island's state library agency. We support and connect our state's libraries so that they can better serve and meet the needs of all Rhode Islanders. In Rhode Island, we're very fortunate to have a single multi-type network known as the Library of Rhode Island, or simply LORI, which connects over 170 libraries and moves over 2 million items a year, which is actually 2 items for every single man, woman, and child in the state of Rhode Island. We're also fortunate to be able to do resource sharing with our neighboring state of Massachusetts through a partnership with the Massachusetts Library System that enables Rhode Island libraries and Massachusetts libraries to share items freely across state borders. So we're very grateful for that partnership with the Massachusetts Library System. Today's conference, as Zach mentioned, was originally going to take place at the College of Holy Cross in Worcester, Mass. But then this pesky pandemic came along, and we had to pivot to a virtual conference. But the silver lining to that is, as Zach mentioned, we have people from across the country attending today, and there was no fee involved. So we're very happy to be able to share this really fantastic conference with people from Maine to California, from Alabama to Washington State, from state libraries, from Library Consortium, and from public and academic libraries around the country. Of course, with a strong representation from Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. As Zach also mentioned, the conference today has been a year in the making, and it really began as an idea from the Library of Rhode Island Resource Sharing Working Group, and became fully shaped with working with our colleagues at the Connecticut State Library and the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. So I'd like to thank Zach Berger as chair of the Library of Rhode Island Resource Sharing Working Group for all his hard work, along with all the folks in Rhode Island's Resource Sharing Working Group, and our friends at the Connecticut State Library, Dawn Laval, and at the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, Paul Kissman, all of you for your leadership, your vision, your perseverance in putting together this conference today and pivoting to a virtual conference. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank our own Chai-Chin Chen at the Office of Library and Information Services for all her hard work and really having that vision and pushing to make sure that we had this resource sharing conference, which obviously has generated a lot of interest across the country. I'd also like to thank Janice Stevenson at the Warwick Public Library for providing the Zoom platform and all the technical assistance today, and Jana will be the incoming chair of the LORI Working Group. But most importantly, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time today to learn about and discuss the latest developments and the future of resource sharing. Obviously, it's a hot topic, and we're so glad that so many of you could join us at our New England conference that is now a national conference. It's you who will be charting the course for resource sharing in your state. So we thank you for your attendance. We hope you enjoy a fantastic program today with some great speakers. And at this time, I'd like to turn you over to my colleague and friend, James Lonergan, the Director of the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners.
Thank you, Karen. Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to be here today to join in welcoming you to the Sharing Visions 2020 New England Resource Sharing Conference. Thank you to everyone from the state library agencies in Rhode Island, Connecticut, and my own state, Massachusetts, who helped plan this conference, as well as to all the presenters and to the Institute of Museum and Library Services for its financial support of the conference through the Connecticut State Library. I'm looking forward to hearing and learning from our presenters. Just yesterday, I gave welcoming remarks at the Small Libraries Forum sponsored by the MBLC and our partner, the Mass Library System. While resource sharing is important for all libraries, it's particularly important for our small libraries with more limited resources. All but a very few of our small libraries in Massachusetts are not standalone entities, but are part of our robust statewide resource sharing system. In Massachusetts, residents of municipalities that are certified in our state aid to public libraries program, which included 345 of our 351 cities and towns in fiscal 2020, have access to 59 million plus items through reciprocal borrowing. This means that residents in towns like Mount Washington, it's in the far southwestern corner of Massachusetts, bordering Connecticut and New York State, which has a population of 167, have the same access to those millions of items as do residents in any other part of the Commonwealth, including Boston. The Mass Library System, working with their contractor Optima, provided statewide delivery of over 14.5 million items to 540 participating libraries in 2019. 2020 statistics will most likely be somewhat lower given the temporary shutdown of statewide delivery earlier this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but they did an amazing job with the challenge of restarting delivery after the shutdown, period. However, statewide delivery is expensive. It currently costs just over $5 million per year, and the MLS Executive Board continues to discuss the long-term sustainability of the service. In 2019, the MBLC was pleased to be able to create a new state-funded grant category for automated library networks to fund our LEA, Library eBooks and Audiobooks program, and directly support the continually growing demand for these resources across the Commonwealth through the purchase of e-content. Ebook borrowing increased 42% between 2016 and 2018, and has increased since then, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic. LEA gives patrons access to more than 350,000 titles from 8 library networks and 345 participating libraries. A previous statewide ebook program gave users access to a shared collection of 40,000 titles only. Finally, in these challenging economic times, resource sharing saves money. As our board chair, Marianne Klugus, regularly says when speaking with legislators, libraries are the original sharing economy. They will share anything that isn't nailed down. The MBLC will continue to strongly support resource sharing, which is a crucial part of our mission to provide every person in the Commonwealth with full and equal access to outstanding library services, to promote innovation and collaboration, and to position libraries at the center of civic life in their communities. Thank you. I believe I should turn it back over to Zach Berger.
Thank you very much, James, and thank you, Karen, for your welcoming remarks. Please stay tuned. We will begin our keynote address with Trevor A. Dawes at 9:15. In the meantime, please feel free to say hello in the chat.